Just very quickly, I thought I'd just summarize what's been announced in the budget and perhaps also just make some comments which depends what has been said. As you know, the overall, the big announcement regarding the budget was the reduction in VAT from 15% to 9%. But also at the same time, the number of mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that we have some form of level playing field. The reasons for the VAT reduction obviously is at least 2 or 3 major reasons. One of them, of course, is to be able to reduce the end price to the consumer. Given the fact that the economy is doing well, we have the ability or have the capacity to be able to take that reduction in revenue, but also, to bring about a lot more sort of a progressive approach to taxation system in Fiji, as was mentioned in the forum that we had here, I think a couple of months back. As you know that in Fiji at the moment, the current revenue collection from corporate taxation is only about $220 million. VAT collection was approximately about $700 to $800 million. Now, corporate taxation obviously is very, very low. Whether it's just because of 20%, we don't believe that is the case. We believe there's obviously still a lot of people who aren't paying the taxes and correctly. The other leakage that we have, there was a World Bank study that was done back in 2007 that essentially found out that 1/3 of the value of our GDP then, if you extrapolate that to the 1/3 of our GDP now, which is approximately $3 billion, was in the black. Which means that we're losing tax revenue of approximately about $700 to $800 million, of which about $250 million is unaccounted VAT collections. So we have in this budget put in place a revenue collection through greater compliance of $120 million, which is less than 50% of the $250 million. And as you know that, as was announced, that we believe that at the moment further is talking to some Japanese suppliers about that will be connecting in particular supermarket chains with direct real-time information in terms of the sales that take place at cash registers. It's not something new in Fiji. It's obviously done in many other countries in the world, and we hope to introduce that in Fiji because there was some leakages, in fact some substantial leakages because of the fact that certain items you had VAT applicable and other items VAT wasn't applicable. There has been talk, in particular by the opposition, that because of the fact that the VAT will now be applicable to 6 food items, including kerosene, that the individual consumer will be in a worse off position. That is not the case. We've in fact did all the calculations with the Reserve Bank of Fiji that obviously monitors the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and had a basket of groceries. And in fact, the overall food price, looking at some basic food items, which includes more than those 6 items, you're looking at about a 0.04% reduction in price. But overall, conservatively, without factoring in the duty reduction, and as you'll see that there are many areas in which we reduce duty on, you're looking at overall savings of about 4.5% in the cost of living. So the VAT was the significant announcement. The second, of course, was the fact that a number of items has been zero rated duty, in particular raw materials. For those of you who are manufacturers, part of the duty suspension scheme where you have to, have some of them have to pay upfront duty and then get a refund on it, etc. In order to simplify the system and to reduce compliance costs, all of those items have been zero rated duty now. So that's not only, in fact, the beneficiaries of that aren't just simply, for example, in the case of the garment industry, not only the garment manufacturers themselves, but the ordinary boombos and the ladies who are making clothes, etc. They can now buy zippers and buttons and other things that they need, cotton, to make those dresses or those sulu chamas, and they buy those materials duty-free, with the duty-free prices built into that, so there will be a reduction together with the VAT decrease. So it does create enterprise. It does also simplify the system. The other, of course, as you know, as I mentioned, we've reduced duty on a number of items. Some of these items are items that may not traditionally be considered essential, but in fact they are essential for any person to, live a decent life in the sense of feeling good about themselves. So the fact is, underpants, very high duty. Not many people in Fiji make underpants. I'm sure many of the women know about that. Undergarments. These are the sorts of things that are imported. Deodorants, sanitary pads. These are essential living items that people do need every day. And we've reduced the duty on these items because we want everybody to be able to benefit from it. So it increases a person's self-worth, in terms of the dignity they have, the ability to access that. You should not have to be a person earning $50,000 to be able to buy a good deodorant or undergarments and all those other types of services and personal effects, personal items you need. So we've gone in that area, and as you know, we printed the brochures and that, so there's quite a few of that. But we've also looked at things like duty reduction in areas of transportation. Many people welcome the fact that the duty on new tyres has been reduced from 32% to 5%. That's a massive cut. The reason is that we are now building better roads. People are driving faster. Hopefully they will stick to the speed limit. But the fact is more accidents are happening. We're getting bigger sized vehicles with more engine power. But we also have a huge market for second-hand tyres. The reason why we have a huge market for second-hand tyres is because the price of new tyres are ridiculous. So, these are very sort of road safety type of issues that we also take into consideration. And so this is only one more year left of the importation of second-hand tyres, which is next year. After that, second-hand tyres will be banned in Fiji. So we want brand new tyres to be on the roads in Fiji. And we're also hoping in all of these policies, all of these duty reductions, there is an inherent belief that the market will be competitive. It's very critical that the market will actually reflect the reduction in duty and prices. The market will reflect the reduction in the VAT. And unfortunately, history shows that we don't have that much of a confidence in not all business people, but some business people. This is why we brought in some new laws. And you'll see these laws that have already been passed by Parliament, where it is now an offence that if you do not pass on the reduction in duty, and if you do not pass on the duty, and if there is a complaint raised against you, then the onus is on you to prove that you actually have done so. So that's already now will obviously come into effect once the gazetting of the bill takes place. We have not in any way increased the basket of goods that will be price controlled. In fact, it's still the same. And as you know, a few years ago, in fact, we reduced the list of items that were price controlled. And we want to go more towards liberalizing the economy, but it is very critical to ensure that we have competition in the market and we encourage more people. Just because somebody is the agent for a particular tire, it does not mean nobody else can get in the market. And I think these are the kind of things that we expect the market to do and go ahead with. We have also, as you know, recognized the fact quite publicly and also in Parliament, the number of changes do need to take place within FIRCA. Just reading up some literature the other day that said in Parliament that countries like USA understand when business people start their business and foreign investors come in, the first place they go to is FIRCA, to be able to develop a relationship with them and have a nice friendly conversation. In Fiji, the relationship is different, but that's the last place you go to, or you send your accountant to them. We want FIRCA to be a lot more friendly. We need to have a lot more transparency in the decision-making process. We've already had discussion with FIRCA and the board to say we must have practice notes put up on their website in terms of how they've interpreted various provisions within the tax laws. As you know, Parliament also approved the new income tax bill, which was approved on Friday. We've got Professor Lee Burns from the University of Sydney, who spent a good number of years now, recent years anyway, in terms of drafting the particular bill, and the bill has already been approved. It creates the simplification that's required, but of course, like all tax laws throughout the world, there will be certain elements where there will be prone to subjectivity. Now, how do you mitigate that level of subjectivity is obviously to have some very clear and transparent rules pertaining to interpretation of those provisions. And we need to work together, of course, with everybody that pays taxes to be able to develop the jurisprudence on that without necessarily having to go to courts. And I think this is why the practice notes will be very, very critical in that area. We have, of course, as you know, spent, as the Minister of Agriculture said, quite a lot of money again on roads, water and electricity. That is a momentum that is very critical. You can see some of the benefits of it, every day sort of driving around. Of course, a lot more needs to be done, but as I had a discussion with some members from the government industry the other day, I think United Apparel no longer feels embarrassed to take their clients down the road in Nandawa, because before it was a very embarrassing situation. Now they don't mind actually taking their clients down the road in Nandawa because the roads are actually quite good. And I think this is one of the advantages, apart from the fact that you are able to provide good infrastructure to Fijians themselves. It does position Fiji in a lot better perspective and positioning, particularly when we get into the services area. And we believe that Fiji's future does also lie in the services sector. Apart from, of course, agriculture, the services sector is one area that we want to develop. Just seeing some other people over here in the crowd, things like Vegemite and various condiments, etc. We've reduced the duty from 32%. If you actually motivate people, yeah, they wrote a submission on that. We have reduced the duty on those types of, food items that we've got to be able to give people more access to things like that. But getting back to things like roads, if you see the 4-lane road that's been done out of Nadi Airport, it does tie in well with what the Minister of Tourism is saying. We're going to have a direct flight to Singapore. Fiji now has a direct flight to every single continent that touches the Pacific Rim except South America. And that is actually, when you think about it, is quite a momentous and a very good position to be in, which means that Fiji, in a few years' time, can work towards being able to fly to South America. Once you do that, you're suddenly in the hub, or in the center, or epicenter of the Pacific Ocean. So I think, as we've said before, we want to make Fiji more of a hub. It does require some money. It does require a certain level of strategic positioning. But if you want to tap into the market, the Singaporean market, other markets, you need to be able to present Fiji in a particular manner. We believe there's a lot of potential for the MICE market, meetings, incentives, convention and exhibition market. We have only sort of skimmed the surface, if at all. Fiji does not at the moment have the capacity to host a 2,000 people conference, a 3,000 people conference. We can't do it. We can't. Whether you want to hold a film fair awards from Bollywood, or whether you want to host a 4,000 delegation conference for Asian Development Bank, which we've been given the opportunity to host in 4 years' time. But these are the things that we're building up towards. And we need to be able to get the infrastructure right, and of course everything else that goes around with it and the level of connectivity. The environmental levy, I also want to touch on the SDT. I know it does not only necessarily, although predominantly touches what we call the tourism sector, it does touch things like bars and nightclubs, and I see Liam here, Bad Dog and Godfather Cafe, which I was there yesterday actually. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, from government's perspective, these are areas where services that tourists use, or Fijians who already have the ability to use those services. And it is, from one perspective, an item where they have an alternative to. So if I want to drink beer, to put it simply, I have the choice of going and drinking at Bad Dog or other places, I forget the names, Traps, other places. I have the opportunity to do that. But if I don't want to pay the 25% now, I also go and buy a carton of beer and drink it at my house. That's an alternative to that. Those people who can go to Traps and other places, they know that it's a particular area, of course they can socialize, but it doesn't mean if they don't go there, they can't get to drink beer. In the same way, for example, we've looked at other areas, I think movies, you have that, but I can also get a DVD and watch a movie at home. So it is not an essential item per se, and also I have alternatives to that. Apart from that, we have restaurants that have a gross turnover of more than now $1.250 million. There's not many restaurants that fall within that. The ordinary Fijian who eats at dolphins, MHCC, tapus, and any other food outlet in Suva does not get caught by the SDG, nor do they get caught by the levy. So they are in fact not paying this, but people who can afford to pay it in the first place are actually paying it. So it makes the taxation system from that perspective progressive. Previously it was actually regressive, because the whole notion of having VAT exemption to target those people who cannot afford to pay for those food items, you and I also did not get to pay VAT. People who actually were earning $200,000 a year also weren't paying VAT, or when they bought flour, rice, or tin fish. So that's the difference, that's how we've drawn the difference between them. And as the Minister said, it is a difference of 5%. We believe also with the economic growth, and I'm sure that many of the employers over here will also give a nice pay rises very soon, because there is a huge demand for human resources, and we do have limited capacities available locally. So I think there's also what we've seen, a very healthy competition amongst employers for good employees, and we see that a lot. For example, between banks, they always poach each other's people. The Companies Act, as you know, is coming to play next year from 1 January. The tax bill is also coming to play. Next year in February, we hope to table a whole heap of number of laws before Parliament, which include things even like the Kava bill. As the Minister of Agriculture will tell you, we've allocated $1 million, and Kava is obviously ready to take off. Recently, the European studies have shown that Kava does not have an adverse impact on your liver. There was this fear about it. So obviously, a lot of the pharmaceutical companies are now, want to invest in the Kava sector, Yamona sector. Apparently, it's a great form of relaxant, from what we're told by the pharmaceutical companies. We have a new health levy, as you know, that's been proposed on tobaccos and cigarettes, but that, of course, it does get reduced in terms of the end price to the consumer because of the VAT reduction in 6%. So there's only an increase of 4%. Overall, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the various allocations. Health has been given an enormous amount of money increase, including education. So we continue to invest in our education sector and invest in the health sector. But I also heard some of you business people who would be keen. We've given a very, very generous offer or package if you invest in the health sector. The similar type of packages that were offered to the tourism sector previously has now been transferred to the health sector. And that is very critical. I think most people, if you talk to, they'll say in Fiji you can get everything, and it's very, very good quality and high quality except health. And we want to really leapfrog in that area. And there's a recognition of that. So apart from investing in the public health sector system, we also want to invest in the private health sector system. We hope to create a system in that area. So you're looking at 10-year holidays, standard allowances, writing off of carrying forward of losses for 8 years, with a minimum investment of $7 million. We've also recognized the fact that if you invest in what we call ancillary services in the health sector, so if somebody goes along and invests a minimum of $2 million and there's an MRI machine and then a scanner and an X-ray machine, then obviously you already have invested about $4 million. You can get a 7-year tax holiday for that. Because we believe that we need to have those type of critical services available, not just in Suva and Otoka, but other parts of Fiji. I'll stop there, ladies and gentlemen. They are the sort of key areas, and we're quite happy to take questions in respect to these.